Michele Heyward, and she is a business owner. And we have talked many times. I've done videos on master classes on leveraging your media presence. And the reason I brought her on, because she is a business owner, is to really get her take on the importance of media, leveraging your platform, doing interviews and different things like that. So thanks, Michele, for coming on and having a quick chat with me today.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here today.
Thank you so much. So we're going to jump right in. So with leveraging your media presence, you've seen some of the videos. We've even talked about it a little bit. So what are your thoughts as a small business owner? How important is it for you to leverage your media presence?
I would say it's very important for several reasons. Number one, especially if you're new in business, people can be very hesitant about doing business when they go and do a search on your personal name and or your business name. And only your website showing up or your Facebook business page showing up doesn't always bode well for many people when they're trying, like, I don't know if I want to spend X amount of dollars with a company. And so that's really one thing. People, it can help validate your business. The other part of that when it comes to media is really getting new customers, right? You're trying to make sure you keep dollars coming in the door. And so media presence has also brought me and driven in sales leads for my business as well. So those are the two of the primary reasons I really like having a media presence.
With that, a lot, like you said, social media, you brought that up. And one thing that, hopefully all of us have learned is, regardless of what platform you on, is really being active. But so many people are, flowing over, especially B2B. But, even some of the B2Cs are starting to flow into LinkedIn. And that's starting to be like the platform to do a lot of business. And I'm not saying none of the others are not good, but that's one of the ones that is a great SEO when you are searched. So what are your thoughts about, being in the space of LinkedIn, and when your name is typed in on Google, what pops up, and the importance of having that platform and your profile together?
I love LinkedIn. Let me just say that I've been on the platform since 2008. Even back then, I was an employee. I spent the time to build out my connections, and maybe I know I didn't post off because I don't know who from a company is going to see what and what they're going to think, but I always connected with people. So when it comes to LinkedIn and your business, I found it to be very, very prevalent in the B2B space. And this is why. When people decide to make a purchase, number one, they may go to a search engine like Google and the new IE, because I'm still going to say Internet Explorer, no matter what they change the name to. and one of the top, when they put in your name, if they can spell your name correctly, most times they don't spell mine correctly, your LinkedIn profile is one of the first things to pop up for most people if they have a profile, right? And it's public because you can make it private on LinkedIn. So if they go to your LinkedIn profile, number one, and they have a LinkedIn profile, they're trying to see, do you have any common connections? That means you are in their network, or maybe you're not. And so if you're saying, oh no, I'm an expert in this space, I'm knowledgeable in this space, and they've been in that space for 20 plus years, and you have no connections, they might be like, I don't know about you. Or they're looking through your profile to see what type of work you've done, who your clients may have been, maybe even looking at your most recent profiles or documents you have attached to your account. So it's really important that when you think about LinkedIn, it's not just about being searchable, right? It's about showing up as knowledgeable and an expert, and also having built a certain type of network of people that are customers, but also other experts and other people knowledgeable in that space. So I think LinkedIn is a great place to be. You don't have to do LinkedIn lives like me. You don't even have to blog, but you do have to post every now and again and really engage with your connections on there as you build those out. And that way it's your account stays vibrant, it stays up to date, and people know that you're there and you stay relevant in your space.
So not only is social media important, but other platforms. So let's talk about interviews. Reaching out, because sometimes people, they sit and they want to post and, attempt to put their presence on social media, hoping somebody would reach out to say, hey, you want to be on my podcast or radio show, TV show, or whatever uh, media platform it is. Um, why would you reach out to a media platform to let them know you are interested to not only be on their station, but what information would you give them so it will make sense of why do you want to be here, instead of just saying, hey, I want to interview so I can say I was on Fox or ABC or whatever. Why is that so important?
So it's two things. It could be what's going on in currently in the world. And so your business, your thought leadership, your opinion may be in a great place to now show up. So when I'm pitching those types of platforms about what's going on in the market, what I want to say, media outlets about current events. I'm usually a thought leader, an expert in that space. And so I'm reaching out to them to say, hey, this is what I want to talk to you about and provide my take. Other times, what I do, especially around podcasts, live stream shows, I'll do a broad search, in the midst of one now around civil engineering and infrastructure. And so we're doing a huge search, trying to find, let's say, the 100 most relevant podcasts that for this particular space or topic. Then I'll go through and look through to make sure they have topics and previous guests who talk about my topic, as well as the topic and the theme of that particular podcast. Does it align to my brand, to my thought leadership? And so when I pitch them, not only have I listened to 2 or 3 of their podcast episodes, I've listened to the ones that are relevant. I also tell them, hey, these are 2 to 3 topics I would like to talk about on your podcast. In addition, I said, hey, here's my bio if you want to learn more about me. And that way they don't have to go searching more than they have to. They have my bio, they have topic. They're like, yeah, no, it doesn't fit. It's not for this season. And it's easier and quicker for, I think, podcast hosts, because I have a couple of those, to make a decision about whether or not they want you on as a guest. So that's what I do when it comes to podcasts and live stream shows, opposed to current events. When I want to get on a news outlet, I'm working, I actually have a call tomorrow. And so we can talk about that call, but really discussing a news segment that I'm going to pitch to local outlets here in South Carolina, where I'm from and I'm located.
Now, when we're, say we're out looking for these media outlets, and as everyone know, there's so many, platforms out here, big and small. When you focusing on the big boys of, getting on their platforms, and you do not want to entertain the smaller podcasts or radio shows, how do you think that can affect the brand by only focusing on the larger networks?
I tell everybody this: we all start at zero. Meaning, I have done several podcast interviews at podcasts like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Podcast is no longer around. The recordings are no longer accessible. My interviews no longer accessible. The person decided to move on to do something else. But what it does, it prepares you for larger platforms. It prepares you to hold have a conversation. If your internet goes out, their internet goes out, something happens. I've had wild animals fighting during or cats fighting during one interview. Like exactly. You learn how to keep your composure, and you like, let me go get I'm glad I got this tech, because the interviewer is not bothered by the sound I can hear in the window, right? And so
Yeah.
you get better at interviews. And so I always preface it as this: we all start at zero. And if you're like, oh, I am too big for that podcast, that really can say more about your brand than you, as opposed to everybody starts at zero. I love the theme. I love what you're working on. I love to be your 15th episode to your new podcast. And I think it's very humbling to go through that process. And so I'll get hit up for podcasts I've never heard before. They'll have a really good pitch, and like, absolutely, I'll do it. I've been in Money Magazine. I've been in Business Insider, NASDAQ, Crunchbase, but I will still do a podcast that has 20 episodes, and I will be episode number 21, because to me, we're going to have a conversation. And sometimes those other publications, they're very like, oh, I got to find, they'll have an hour-long conversation with you and decide they're not going to publish anything. That podcaster is more than likely going to release that episode of you. It is going to be searchable on all of these podcast platforms. And that to me matters. So you have to understand, when it comes to those larger platforms, it's not guaranteed you're going to be published. You have a better opportunity of that episode going out when it's a live stream show or a podcast. And so it's good to have that mix, because some people like the big brands, and I do put in slide decks on our website as seen on or heard on these brands, because we're all like, but that doesn't mean just because you aren't that brand, I will not do an interview with you. I got a LinkedIn message in mail 2 weeks ago asking me to do a podcast. I went and looked at the podcast, looked at the episodes, listened to a few of them that I thought aligned with my brand, the current theme, and I absolutely did the show. And I think it's really important that you humble yourself and really think about, everybody starts at zero.
I love that you said that, starting at zero, because we all start somewhere. Now that you've done the interviews, you've been on these different podcasts, or even if you had an opportunity to be on some of the big boy brands, most of the time when I see people that do podcasts or interviews, right before it going, hey, I'm going to be on such and such, and then right after it's published, hey, here's my interview, look at this, and then it dies out. You never hear about it again. It's not on their profile. It's not on their banners. They may or may not even put it on their website. So what are your thoughts about people that's not leveraging that media presence to show as seen in, whatever these platforms are, except when it first comes out and then it dies out? So what are your thoughts about not leveraging that and just letting it die out?
A couple things. If the podcast no longer publishes stuff, you may decide, you know what, I'm not going to push out the episode.
Good point. Yeah.
I actually keep a Google Doc with all of the articles, all of the podcast episode links, and I just call it our PR. And then I'll tap sometimes my assistant, like, hey, let's start scheduling these out and start circulating stuff from 5-6 years ago. And the people, I've had a couple people like, why are you sending out this episode we did in 2018, 2019? I say, because it's still relevant. I'm still in business. Your podcast is still alive. And it actually helps them get new guests. They're getting new listeners. They're getting more downloads. And you should see how surprised people are when I continue to share out and sometimes tag them on social. Something they even did on my podcast or through my virtual summits. People are very thankful. So you have to think about it like this. How many times have you seen a Cheerios commercial? Did they play before you go to the grocery store? Now that you're back from the grocery store? No, they are playing that commercial multiple times a day. And it's a great way for you to build social currency with that podcast guest host, because just because you did their podcast, that doesn't mean they won't mention you to other people for more PR opportunities and even other speaking opportunities. So you really have to think much broader, as it is one and done, as it is continuing to build your currency, continuing to strengthen relationships with those hosts when you're a guest on their platform.
Thank you so much, Michele, for sharing all the information about leveraging your media presence and the importance of sharing all of your interviews, because it's knowledgeable. And then it also opens the door for someone that may see that interview, be like, oh, wait, let me contact this person because I need her to help me do XYZ. So storing those is crucial to any business, regardless of how big or small you are, making sure that you hold on to the interviews and recycle. So thank you so much, Michele, for sharing and jumping on in with leveraging your media presence.
Check out the free masterclass. Sign up today, scan the QR code, or if you're watching on one of our audio platforms, be sure to jump over to our YouTube. And our YouTube is at SavvyMagBiz. SavvyMagBiz.